Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Please listen carefully because the stories you're about to hear are true. I'm sitting at the infamous Dead Children's Playground, where rumor has it children were murdered and their spirits haunt these very swings. The story may not be as true as some would believe. The real stories begin over here. Welcome to Maple Hill Cemetery, home to some of Huntsville's oldest and most bizarre ghost stories. Predating the Civil War, Maple Hill was opened in 1822. Here, in the oldest part of the cemetery, you'll find the graves of governors and Confederate soldiers, and some of Alabama's more prominent ghost stories. For instance, the mausoleum of Mary Chambers Bibb.
Mary Chambers Bibb was 19 when she died. Your job as a woman was to get married. So when she turned 18, she and her best friend meeting the Bibb brothers. William was Mary's Bibb brother. They fell in love and decided to get married. And they sent materials off to Paris to be made into beautiful French wedding gowns. And they did all kinds of things that you do to prepare. It was a sign of society to be pale, and so they would drink Epsom salts, which clears your body of toxins, and they would drink it every night. Well, one night, her servant brought her her glass of water with supposedly Epsom salts in it, and she drank it and started to feel pretty ill. It got worse and worse, and so the servant called for her mother. Her mother came upstairs to Mary's room, took one look at her, and called for the doctor. And back then, of course, doctors did house visits. So the doctor came immediately, checked her over, saw how violently ill she was becoming, and determined she had been poisoned. To confirm this, they went downstairs to the kitchen basement and found that her illiterate servant had given her arsenic instead of Epsom salts. So obviously, the doctor did not give her long to live, and the neat thing about it was that William was so in love with her, he wanted to go ahead and marry her anyway. The wedding gowns had come in from Paris, and so she put on her wedding dress, and they had a wedding right there in her bedroom with the minister from First Presbyterian serving as the officiant. She died just 3 months later, and William knew she was a trendsetter, so he built her the first mausoleum in Maple Hill Cemetery. I think that because of the size of the mausoleum, because there's room in there for someone to sit upright, the legend started that he had Mary entombed in her wedding dress, sitting up in her rocking chair, which is her favorite spot during her sickness. They say that if you go to the cemetery late at night, which you should not because it is against the law, you can hear the rocking chair rocking back and forth inside the mausoleum.
Over here, on the opposite side of the cemetery, lies Adelaide Eugene.
Tallulah Bankhead was a famous movie actress that was born here in Huntsville in 1902. Her mother, Adelaide Eugene Bankhead, unfortunately died as a result of childbirth 2 weeks after Tallulah was born, and she's buried here at Maple Hill Cemetery. She was only 22 years old, and she was very beautiful, so they say. So Tallulah was raised by her father, who was a politician, sometimes in Washington, D.C., and sometimes by his family in Jasper, Alabama. She did not actually live here in Huntsville beyond the 2 weeks past her mother's death. Tallulah was famous for her bad behavior. She was banned from Eton Boys' School in London because she was corrupting the students. When she had tried out for the part of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, she was turned down, and she said, "I could have given a performance that would have made Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson both turn over in their graves." She said, "Cocaine is not addictive. I take it every day." If she was at a party and she wasn't the center of attention, she would leave the room and take off all of her clothing and come back. Voila, she's now the center of attention. When she found out that Shirley Temple, who was not even 10 years old, was filmed with gauze over the camera lens, she says, "Well, then I should be filmed through linoleum." Now, all of that just gives you an idea of what kind of a person Tallulah Bankhead was. So she was in Hollywood one night, and the rumor is that she was in some kind of a seance. And the ghost of her mother, Adelaide, came to her and said, My headstone at Maple Hill Cemetery is off of the foundation. I want you to go and make sure that it is put right. Yeah, Tallulah said, and a few days later, oh yes, that seance. She remembered to call someone here in Huntsville, and when they came and looked at this headstone, sure enough, it was off center, off of the base. It was corrected, it was fixed, and Tallulah Bankhead was never in a seance again.
Here lies one of the most bizarre stories in the entire cemetery. The story of Philip Flanagan.
Well, this is the grave of a man named Philip Flanagan, who was a carriage maker, first in Tennessee and then here in Huntsville. And he met a woman and fell in love with her. Her name was, in later life, Elizabeth Dale Gibbons Flanagan Jeffries High Brown Rout, known locally as the Black Widow of Hazel Green. Philip Flanagan was her second husband. Now, her first husband had died of something that was called black tongue disease. We really don't know what that means. They were married for 18 years. This husband, though, only lived 6 months after they were married. Philip Flanagan was the beloved husband of Elizabeth, and she wrote wonderful things that were carved into his headstone. However, she misspelled his name. So how much did she really love him? What we found out later about him is this. He was deeply in debt when they got married. He had spent a lot of money having custom-made clothing, buying items from England, and he had rented this space for his carriage shop and had not been paying the rent. So he owed a lot of money when he married Elizabeth. She thought that he was very wealthy because of the way that he was dressed and the way that he conducted himself. So he died after 6 months of marriage. It was 2 husbands later before his estate was finally settled. She was already pregnant with her first child and married to husband number 4. Interestingly enough, we brought a medium to this site, and he put his hands on this headstone, and this is what he told us. The headstone is in the wrong place. It should be to the left of where it is now. And if you look at it clearly, you can see that the top is broken off, the bottom is broken off. Somebody lifted it up and set it on another headstone. He made contact with the ghost of Philip Flanagan, who said this: I know what everybody said, that I died as a result of my wife. He said, somebody dug up my body after I was dead for some time and looked at my fingernails. They were looking for evidence of arsenic poisoning. As he was dying, he was sitting on a stool in the kitchen of his home, and as he fell into unconsciousness, he had been calling for Elizabeth. He was very upset that she did not come to him. His last thoughts: I'm too young to die, and there are no rats in this house. He collapsed on the floor. It was one of the slaves who came and found his body, and she said that he was dead, but he was screaming at her, I'm not dead, I'm not dead. But at that time, you see, he was looking at his own body laying on the floor.